Had a request recently to talk about Norsca, so here we are. Let's have a look at another core kind of mainline unit. Marauders, of course. Basically, the entire faction is Marauders, but I'm talking about just the basic Marauders and Marauder Great Weapons. This is best compared to my video about State Troops, who I still maintain are the best unit in this kind of low-tier militia, quote-unquote, unit class. Like, not necessarily true chaff, but like, you know, that like 250 to like 500 range. Marauders are up there. I'm not sure 100%. Goblins are also very good. There's an argument for at least two of the variants of Ungors. The other one might be terrible, but more on that later. But Marauders are definitely very solid. The Great Weapons got a little bit cheaper in the last patch, which is quite nice. And the Norscan Marauders, other than the Chaos ones, of course, they're just slightly more expensive, paying for this Rage, which gives them extra leadership, bit of physical resistance, and melee attack long term, if they can hang in the fight. So we've just got a whole bunch of them, and against a faction like High Elves here, I'm up against my patron, Rider of Rohan. He's got Eltharion up in the air, some Silver Helms, Archers, 2 Phoenix Guards, some Silverin Guard, and Spearmen, so staunch line of spears, couple halberds, accoutrement archers, and so on. Wulfric leading the way for me. We've got a typical Beasts of Tashnar, Norscan Ice Wolves combo. I'm a huge fan of this. Shaman Sorcerer on a Chariot, the Marauder Horseman, 1 Manticore, and then a whole bunch of Marauders. 4 basic Marauders, 3 Great Weapons. The Great Weapons in particular here I brought because Silverin Guards and Phoenix Guard are both relatively common in this matchup, and I figured these guys would probably trade decently cost-effective there. I end up doing a horrible friendly fire to those Marauders on the end, probably routing them off, but that's fine. Meanwhile, Wulfric gonna get an engagement here on Eltharion, and Eltharion is immediately in horrific, terrifying danger. But at the same time, you can see Wulfric's getting shredded by archers here. Mammoth with 70 armor, you might think, hey, high elf bows don't do AP damage, but in fact they do enough AP damage and just enough missile damage overall. It's really not great. Spell comes down, that Searing Doom, gonna rock those spearmen into terrifying, but I've got to pull Wulfric back immediately and just kind of play very safe with him, so to speak. Feral Manticore going to get dragged out as Rider of Rohan desperately trying to bring Eltharion the Grim into a safe position. You see how I kind of passed through his own spears there. It's pretty good stuff. Hounds are swarming into the back line, though, and all the meanwhile, there's just this giant saturation of Marauders, right? Just trading reasonably cost-effectively. Silverin Guard here, 75 armor is pretty decent. The AP definitely helps in that situation. So they're getting their extra, I believe. Do they have actually a little bit more attack as well? I forget. No, same attack. They just lose melee defense, basically. Maybe a little bit more charge, but the Berserkers also kind of both filing over around to this flank, trying to mop up a lot of these units. 2 Feral Manticores, both still healthy, so I can use them for terror, kind of rear charges and so on. Nice Overcast Plague of Rust, so that these regular Marauders will trade good against the Phoenix Guard. Only 40 armor on them. Phoenix Guard also, I made the point about this recently. My biggest thing I don't like about Phoenix Guard is they have terrible weapon strength, to be honest. Like, the less than 40 weapon strength on a unit this expensive is not good. It's definitely not good. Anyway, yeah, Dragon Princes have been doing a decent job kind of ping-ponging around back and forth over on this side. Eltharion once again faces off against the 2 Manticores, but Silver Helms are able to kind of bail him out somewhat. He can disengage there. One of the Manticores, though, is enraged into him. The other one is not. Apotheosis there can hopefully sustain him a little bit longer. Will RNG screw him over? Doesn't look like it. But all the meantime, Marauders are grinding. They're not, even if they don't necessarily individually trade super cost-effective, just the fact there's so many more of them, and they fight well enough that we can kind of get surrounds, and especially into the late game against these more elite units like Phoenix Guard, kind of drag them down over time, right? And Wulfric's still trying to stay safe from the archers. Manticore drops in again. Eltharion did actually not manage to save himself from the Manticores, it looks like. So a bit of a tough time there. But yeah. Now it's time to get a nice rear attack. This is kind of what I was intending for most of the time for these Great Weapons, is they could try and fight, again, Phoenix Guard and Silverin Guard, which they did well enough. I don't know that any of them actually paid for themselves. But again, it's just more so about having the numbers to work with here. Really, to be honest, the build was carried quite a bit by the Manticores, which is to be expected. Manticores are ridiculous. ridiculously strong. Yeah, just kind of cleaning up some routing units at this point. Here comes some nice... Here we go. This is what we all wanted to see. The Marauders getting in there. Shields up front. Rear charge of great weapons. Dragging down these Phoenix Guard in the late game. Phoenix Guard were already very tattered, so... Yeah, you can see they're even not... They got a couple kills right there. A couple more. Finishing them off. There we go, lads. I still think... I'm not super high on the Marauder great weapons just yet. I do need to do a little bit more testing, but potentially a build like this where you just take like 7 to 8 units of the basic Marauders between the two variants. I do see something like this working better now because they are a little bit cheaper. You have then more funds to allocate to your quote-unquote power units, right? Which is, in this case, like the Manticores. We got the couple Berserkers as well, one of which basically didn't even see combat. This other one definitely paid for itself. Wolfric had a bit of a rough outing, didn't pay for himself, but just staying alive is important enough. Shaman Sorcerer, though, on the Chariot, I'm a huge fan of. 83 kills there. Like I said, the Marauders kind of paying for themselves. They're, what, like 400 points, so actually pretty decent, all things considered, for the shielded ones. The great weapons are more expensive and squishier, so it's kind of a weird situation where you gotta play them a bit more careful. You don't want them to get charged or shot up too much, but if they can get deployed in the right scenario, they can get some good damage in. Still not amazing, I don't think, but just gives you some more bodies in a situation like this. Berserkers, definitely best in class. Have a video about them in terms of kind of anti-infantry DPS units, and I still maintain that even with the addition of Blade Singers, who are pretty close. They're very good, but they're just so much more expensive that Berserkers are more cost-effective. Anyway, that's a tangent. Horsemen did okay. The Hound Squad, not a lot of value, but mostly just disruption is their key anyway, providing extra models. One of the Manticore barely didn't pay for itself. The other one, though, look at that, 2,600 damage value. So, do Manticores need nerfs? Do they need a cost increase? I think they do need a cost increase. I would say 900 to 950, I think, would be just fine for Manticores. You'd still probably see them consistently paying for themselves. But I do think the Manticores do need a cost increase, or maybe just some kind of mild stat nerf. I'm not sure. From Rider Rohan's perspective, Eltharion, all things considered, did okay. And the infantry line, staunch line of spears, it can be good in this matchup. Silver and Guard, they do counter Famir, but I think most people have stopped bringing Famir in this matchup anyway. Dragon Princes I am a fan of. Because people don't bring Famir really in this matchup, I am a fan of bringing the Dragon Princes here for sure, and they did alright. Still didn't quite pay for themselves, but the Archers, definitely a bright spot. High Elf Archers can be super cost effective, shooting a big target like Wolfric, so that's pretty good stuff there. Yeah, this is kind of still an issue with the Elite Halberds, is, you know, if your supporting elements, especially your Lord, kind of just get overwhelmed anyway and you get surrounded, those Elite Halberds will either lose to army losses or just get dragged down by an enemy kind of model count, as we've seen a few times recently from Phoenix Guard specifically. It's they can only be in one place at one time, and they are relatively slow to try and move to another position, which is kind of their biggest downside. Elite Halberds do still suffer from that issue. I don't know if there's any way of fixing that. It's just kind of their design, right? But at least now they can actually fight monsters and stuff better. Just this time I didn't have many monsters. The ones I did have, flying around in the air, Manticores, can pretty much pick the engagements they want as long as they're not too angry. And then just lots of infantry. So Rider Rohan definitely expecting, I think, a monster-oriented build here with all this anti-large. And instead he gets infantry spam, which is just amazing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.